but it's definitely not my my bread and butter,
We are live. Welcome to Best Ball Live viewers. My name is Greg Smith at Greg Sauce on Twitter. I'm your host, and for this week's episode, we are once again drafting Superflex Best Ball, the slim format over at the FFPC. Joining me this week is the illustrious Jennifer Eakins at the Monday Mommy, senior writer and editor at 444.com. Maybe you've heard of it, co-host of the Most Accurate podcast, and I like to think of her as the matriarch of the Mountain Time Zone. How you doing, Jen?
I'm good, Greg. I'm excited to be here. I'm ready to draft. I was just kind of pulling up our thing here separately so I can follow along.
Yep, and longtime viewers will see that I have done the classic thing where I put all the QBs in the queue, and then we'll use the player selector over here to kind of compare positions, at least in the beginning, and then we can mess around with the queue later. But McCaffrey goes 101, no surprise there. That's who I would take. There goes Mahomes, and now we're faced with the decision. Do you take top quarterback? Do you take Dalvin Cook? We could take Travis Kelce here, but I'm sorry, Jen. I know you would want to do that because you love the elite tight ends. We've done that enough on this stream, so I'm going to say no Kelce. We got to pick someone else here. Who's it going to be for you?
I feel like because it's Superflex that we should maybe go QB just for the fun of it, because I don't really do it that often. But if you are more of a running back guy here, I'm totally fine with that. I'm fine with Cook. I'm fine with Allen. I'm open.
My lean is generally the running back. Yeah, I would go with Cook here personally. But with that said, if you want to take Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, I couldn't argue with any of those picks. And this is your team, so you tell me what you want to do here.
You know what? Let's go Cook. I mean, look, I like Cook. I'm happy with Cook. I'm fine with it. I just threw that out there just for the Superflex. The Superflex aspect is something that is not something I do too often. So I figured I'd throw it out there. But I mean, look, I think we'll still be fine at quarterback on the way back or whenever we decide to go that route.
And that's the way I look at it, is that even though these elite QBs are hard to replace, they're a little easier to approximate or like make up part of the value of than the elite tier of running backs like McCaffrey, Cook. And I don't know how far you extend that, down to like Ezekiel Elliott, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara. But I think you can make an argument for a lot of those guys at least being close to Cook in the running back ranks. I think there is a drop off after the top 4 or 5 for sure, or at least like there's just more risk. But I still think getting that elite QB or that elite running back is still slightly more valuable than getting the elite quarterback, even in Superflex.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with you though. I mean, I'm not really an Ezekiel person, so I feel like the cutoff is kind of right before him. But I do agree. I mean, usually in any kind of draft, if I'm within the top 4, I'm usually going running back. And I think you're right. We can definitely make up value-wise. There's plenty of quarterbacks. Depending on obviously what happens here. If everybody randomly decides to go quarterback, then but that doesn't usually happen.
I've seen it both ways, where sometimes these first 2 rounds are just loaded with QBs. In fact, that was even more prevalent early in the offseason when I was doing these streams. Lately, it seems like the draft firms have cooled off on quarterback a little bit, and they're more willing to take the elite running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers in the first 2 rounds, or at least like not force getting 2 QBs right away, because that was the real thing that was going on that was kind of crazy. Was there were a lot of people just double tapping the position right out of the gate. And while I think that can work, I don't know, like I do feel like there is a deep drop off at QB after the top 5 guys, maybe top 6 if you want to throw Russell Wilson in there, because I'm not a Herbert guy. I guess Aaron Rodgers complicates a little bit now that he's kind of back in the fold as a full consideration. But even he is due for some amount of regression after the TD rate he had last year. The chat is starting to pop off here. We got Jordan with us. What's up, Jordan? And then Joseph is drafting from the 12 spot, so we'll see what he does at the turn. Thank you all for drafting with us and joining us on the stream. This should be a good time.
Yeah. The thing is, it's funny. So for me with Superflex, I mean, obviously with Best Ball, it's a different world, but I find that last year I was in it's great. Miss Liz Loza, we did a really fun ladies 14-team Superflex redraft. And I played QB chicken, and it completely screwed me. I mean, it was such a scramble every week. And, of course, that's redraft, so it's a different world where you're literally every week trying to come up with somebody to start. And, I mean, I was like between Daniel Jones and Cam, and it was very, very, very ugly. I ended up kind of making up for it at the end. I think I ended up getting Hurts, which kind of, gave me a nice push at the end of the season. But that's the one thing with Superflex that just kind of scares me, is that when I get, you go in with that attitude of, oh, I'm fine, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm not fine.
And best ball makes it even more complicated, right? Because you don't have that waiver wire to try to pick up QBs during the season. So you have to leave this draft with a quarterback group that you feel comfortable with. And yeah, if you're leaning into those real deep dart throws, that's probably not going to work out for you, especially when you want that, upper 1% finish or whatever, or upper, I guess, 8% in a 12-team league. But yeah, I do think that there is something to be said about Superflex making the QBs even more valuable. So I can't argue with any of these people taking the QBs in the first round. Rodgers in the first round, again, I'm not really on board for that, but if that's the way you want to do with your team, it makes sense.
Yeah, how about Dak not, we got Wilson and Rodgers going before Dak. I find that interesting. I mean, I know he's hurt, but he's not that hurt, Yeah,
that's an interesting thing about drafting this time of year is the injuries tend to get overreacted to, I feel like. Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. I mean, but that's kind of the fun of this season is you can get value because you have people panicking. Like, I think Dak is going to be fine. And the fact that, people took, Wilson and Rodgers before him, I find kind of interesting here.
Yeah, that surprises me as well. We got Jordan asking a question here. He says, what is your preferred best ball roster construction? And you know what? I actually have a banner for this. I'll pull it up. This is kind of what I throw on the stream all the time. Typical roster construction. I don't know if this is my preferred. I guess this is as close to preferred as it gets. So this is where I want to start, and then I kind of build out, tweak things as we go. But 3 quarterbacks, I think exactly 3 is the right number for this format. 2 starters and a bench guy. If you end up drafting someone like Trey Lance and you want to handcuff with Jimmy Garoppolo as like your 4th, or take like another dart throw as your 4th, I can get behind that. 5 to 7 running backs, 6 to 8 wide receivers, 2 to 3 tight ends. And we mentioned Travis Kelce and how that might have been the right pick at 3 in this format because it is tight end premium. But I think if you're going to go with 4 quarterbacks, you almost have to anchor that to a 2 tight end build or a hyper fragile running back build. In some way, you have to skimp out on another position to get that 4th quarterback. And I think getting the elite tight end is the easiest way to do that. Because if you draft Kelce or Waller or Kittle, then you probably only need 2 tight ends, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's one way or the other, right? If you go with elite quarterbacks, then you may end up going with a 3 tight end because you miss out on that. But if you go with, if you end up kind of waiting on quarterback, then you may get 3 and you may even have to get 4. I mean, it depends on really where you go. If like I said, if you play quarterback chicken and you wait, you may end up having to grab a 4th one just to be sure. But
yeah, absolutely.
But ideally, what you said is probably the best route.
Ferris is joining us here in the chat as well. Ferris has drafted a number of these with me, and he's calling out that the Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers stack was denied. And yes, nice job by Joseph there at the turn, denying the Rodgers drafter the Devontae Adams stack. Yeah,
and then he grabbed Dak, which I think is pretty good value there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And if that was the intent of the 11 spot drafter, I'd almost rather take Devontae first. Yeah,
I was thinking the same thing.
And then hope that the person at the turn just goes Dak in another position and lets Rodgers slip. Because I guess what it really comes down to is I feel better about Devontae as like the clear upper echelon player at his position, whereas Rodgers, because I think he's going to regress, is not quite there for me.
Well, I should probably pull up the actual. Okay.
Yeah, I will toggle back and forth between the draft room here. We were just kind of going
no,
on.
I've got it too. I just wanted to kind of peek. We should probably maybe start talking about what we want to do.
We've got the QBs in the queue. I'm going to pull up running back first just to show everybody what's going on there. Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones is the top guys available at that position. Over at wide receiver, I think Devontae is still the only one who's been picked. So
that's crazy in Superflex. Like it's like your brain is just like, oh my God, there's so many good players left for us in the second.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, okay. So Tyreek Hill did go, but Diggs is still available. DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley. I love all of those guys this year. And then at tight end, Kittle's the top guy, and then I think there's a drop off down to Pitts, Andrews, Hawkinson.
For sure.
So, yeah, I'm curious to see who falls to us here. We got a couple more picks before we're up. And
I would think that we should probably take a quarterback at least at 2 or 3, right? I mean,
it kind of depends on how risky you want to go with it and how much you like the guys who are available here.
Right.
So we'll see what these other drafters do. We got 3 in front of us, and looking at the draft board, 2 of them already have quarterbacks. So there's a good chance that not all of them are going to take QBs here. I don't know. Like I like some of these quarterbacks available in this spot. Like Herbert, I'm not a huge fan of. I'm kind of glad that he went. So I don't even have to think about that.
Right, because I might have fought you to get him, actually. I'm a fan, but
I think the value would have been good there, and you could have definitely talked me into it. Just relative to ADP, I think that's a good spot to get him. But we're looking at Tannehill and Hurts at the top of the QB spot.
Okay.
I still like all these running backs, and for me, it would be Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
Wide receiver, Diggs, Hopkins, Ridley. You can make an argument for any of those guys.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm cool with waiting on quarterback if you are and taking. I mean, I would take. I'm not a big Taylor. I would take Eckler or Chubb. Jones, I would, obviously as well, and then any of those wide receivers I like as well. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think running back is better than wide receiver in this spot.
Okay.
The other thing we didn't mention is, I guess Kittle did go. So we missed on Kittle. That would be the other player I would have considered here. But you only need to start 2 wide receivers in this format because of the Superflex spot. So that's why I would say pass on receiver. So which running back do you like the most here?
Let's go Jones.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of Jones, so I'm cool with that.
And I mean, Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of hard to argue with that too,
and
that gives us a lot of flexibility, right? To not really worry too much about running back for the next few rounds.
Yeah, I mean, I for some reason I just haven't really been in the spot to get Jones a lot. I usually kind of end up, like I said, with Chubb or Eckler on the other side, So I like it.
Yeah, what do you think about Eckler this year? Or I guess the Chargers offense in general, because I think as that offense goes, Eckler is going to go, right?
Yeah, no, I think Eckler is in a really good spot. He just has to stay healthy, which is, a concern that, I mean, obviously it's a concern for everyone, but with him, he has, he's had some issues. So, but I think as far as being that pass catching back in that offense, I think he's in a really good spot. And I think he's also someone that, you get him in the second round. So I really, I've been trying to get him when I can. I think someone just took him, but yeah, I'm a fan of his this season. The only thing that really worries me is his, the injury wise. But I mean, you think about that offense. You have Keenan Allen, and then you have Eckler. And there's a big kind of. I mean, Hunter Henry's gone. You got Jared Cook, which it's Jared Cook. So I feel like Eckler's going to get a lot of the pass catching work that maybe. I don't know that Mike Williams is really going to get it all. So.
I mean, if you believe the coach speak, Mike Williams is going to see a lot of work. But we're on the clock here.
Okay.
Let's make a pick, and then we can pick up our Chargers conversation a little bit longer.
Okay. I see Tannehill went. That would have been my other pick before.
I was kind of hoping Tannehill slid back to us, but alas.
See, I'm not really Hurts or Burrow. Like, I'm just not really a fan of either of those. I don't know if we want to push it one more time and get a wide receiver. I don't do a lot of these, so you need to kind of come in and let me know. Like, are we going to be screwed if we wait?
There's no shame in taking a quarterback here. If it were me, I'd push it. I would say just keep waiting on QB. There are enough warm bodies at the position to get players that we're going to be relatively comfortable with later on. I think wide receiver here is. I mean, these guys are just too good.
Yeah, I mean, you got Diggs, Ridley. I'm not a huge Hopkins, but one of those two I'm totally down with.
So Diggs, top of ADP.
Unless we want to get Jefferson and go for Cousins later. I don't know if you want, because we have Cook.
Nah, let's just take Diggs. I think let's let ADP be our guide in this case. Right. I think there is some value in kind of taking what the market gives you, right?
Okay. Yeah, no, listen, getting Diggs in the third round in any draft is
it is still full PPR for the running backs and wide receivers. The tight ends get the premium boost, but I mean, Stephon Diggs was amazing last year, one of the best route runners in the NFL. I'm not the world's biggest Josh Allen fan, but I ate a lot of crow on that last year. I'm ready to admit that he is very good. And, Stephon Diggs is a lot of the reason why Josh Allen made that leap last year. So I'm on board. And I haven't drafted him a whole lot this season. I'm glad to get him on one of these stream teams. It's
nice.
Good.
I have quite a bit because like I told you earlier, I mean, I've been getting a lot of late draft spots. Mm-hmm. So I'm usually in like the 9, 10, 11 range. So I've been, able to kind of scoop him on the way back or even, earlier in the season.
Early round 2 in one quarterback formats.
He seems to be climbing up. He's been going in the first round in a lot of underdog, a lot of people have been taking him in that 10, 11, 12 spot. But earlier in the offseason, I was able to get him on the turn. So I have a lot of Devontae Adams and Diggs stack, or not stack, but a start, which has been great.
We denied the Allen Diggs stack to Ferris. That was not intentional. I think it was just kind of best wide receiver available for us there, Ferris.
I didn't realize he has Allen and he was next. Yeah, we definitely did not notice that. Or at least
we had a question earlier from Ferris asking, do we find FFPC drafts have more QB hungry drafters than typical Superflex leagues? And Jen, you've already said that you don't do a whole lot of these, and I've been doing a lot. And I will say that, this is more QB hungry for me than typical. With that said, I know that a lot of 2 QB and Superflex drafters, when they play, this is what it's like all the time. Like I think a lot of the reason people like to play Superflex and 2 QB is it lets them take the QBs early and not feel bad about it, because that's exciting, right? That's fun. Like these are the most important players in the sport. They're the most exciting players oftentimes, especially the dual threat guys. Like you want to be able to take Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes or Kyler Murray in the first round and be like, yep, there's no shame in this.
Yep.
So I know that I appreciate that. But like I said at the top of the show, I still think there's a little bit more value in the elite RBs and even the elite wide receivers in like a managed league. Here in Superflex, especially FFPC, where you only start 2 wide receivers, I do think the quarterbacks get an actual boost in value, and that's why they go higher. So getting back to the Chargers real quick, let's talk about Herbert, because he has, to me, a lot of red flags in that he's only done it once. He slowed down towards the end of last season. I mentioned this recently on the 4-minute drill with our buddy Sal from 4 for 4. He's the high-end QB I'm the most nervous about. And that's why I would have been hesitant to take him there if he fell. But again, because of where he normally goes in this format, just like we looked at Stephon Diggs as a value relative to ADP, Herbert would have been that for us in the second round. But where are you at on Herbert? Do you share those same concerns that I do?
I don't. I like him. I mean, look, yes, he's only done it once, but that's all he's had to do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's done it once out of 3, seasons. I think he's the real deal. I think he's good. I think he's got a new boost in coaching, and I think that I'm excited by him. He definitely has the arm, right? Yep. And he's got, and he has the weapons. I don't think he's done anything to really make me doubt him, really. All he's done is kind of step in. He wasn't even supposed to be there last year, really. I mean, the freak lung injury thing to Tyrod kind of boosted him out there, and he did what he needed to do. So I'm excited about him. I mean, I wouldn't, I don't think he's priced wrong. I think he's where he is. I mean, I would be concerned if he was like a top, I don't know, but I think he's fine where he is. I mean, I've taken him all season. I took him in Scott Fishbowl in the first round, or and on the turn. So I ended up with him and Allen, which I'm kind of excited about. But look, it could come back and bite me in the ass. But I think that I'm kind of excited by him. I'm excited by that offense. I think they're young, and the AFC West is kind of exciting to watch. And I think he'll be there for him and Mahomes are going to be fun to watch for a while.
You mentioned that 14-team Superflex you did with Liz Loza earlier. I was in a 14-team Superflex with the Bay Area rotisserie fantasy group, just a bunch of writers and analysts from around the Bay. And I kind of did the QB chicken thing, and I ended up having to take Tyrod Taylor as my QB3. And then because I was so nervous about it, I ended up handcuffing him with Herbert as like a pretty late pick. And I just dumb luck, right? More than anything else, I'm just like, okay, I'm not sure Tyrod's going to hold on to the job, so let's take Herbert just in case. And sure enough, like by week 3, it's just I have this. He was the best quarterback on my team, and he was the last one I drafted, and I drafted him really late.
That's great. I love that. When stuff pans out like that, it's fantastic.
And that's part of why I'm okay waiting on QB. We do have to think about it pretty hard with our next 2 picks.
Cousins just went. So when Cousins goes, it's time that we got to make something happen. I mean, there's still like Baker is there. We'll have some options, but you know, it'll be. Listen, but look at look at our top 3 picks. Like we gotta, you know, I'm definitely happy with that.
That's what I'm happy about, right? That's what I care about is this really strong core at other positions. It's as simple as that. Like I plan on winning this league through my running backs and, you know, an elite wide receiver. These other drafters, like you look at the drafter in the 6th spot, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, DeAndre Hopkins, that drafter is planning on winning on the back of those QBs. And it could work. Like there are a lot of different ways to win. You can't necessarily win your league with your first few picks. You have to win it through the middle rounds and the late rounds, especially in best ball. Like that's where you're going to find the supreme values. That's where you're going to find the Justin Herbert who elevates from a low draft position to like a really high end fantasy asset. So yeah, we'll see where we get. I'm excited because I really like this start, and to me it fits the late round QB structure that I'm comfortable with. Before we start talking about our next pick, let's take a quick break to talk about what's going on at 4for4.com. As always, the content is just getting churned out like crazy. And I feel like this year it's more hectic than ever.
It is.
Jen, you added a lot of the articles. I know that John Paulson just dropped his draft day strategery article, a must read every season. I think you edited that, correct?
I did.
And that's great. You have a 10 sleepers to draft after pick 150 article that just came out. And so all this stuff is up at 4for4.com. Head over to the site, get a subscription. When you do, you will receive an FFPC voucher worth up to $35. So you can sign up for a plan at 4for4, head over here to the FFPC, and start drafting one of these best balls yourself. You can draft Superflex, you can draft 1 QB. They have formats with kickers and defenses, without, like the one we're doing tonight. So whatever fits your needs, whatever you need to prep for your managed leagues, the FFPC has those drafts available, and you get a free draft, or at least part of a free draft, from 4for4 when you sign up for a plan. So head over to 4for4.com, hit that red subscribe button up in the top right corner of the screen, and you'll be all set for your preseason prep and your first best ball draft at the FFPC. All right, let's pull up the draft room.
Yep, we're getting
2 picks
close
before
here.
And I'm actually pretty comfortable with the quarterbacks who are available in this range as our QB1. Again, we have a strong enough advantage built at the other positions to where, you know, if Lawrence, Matt Ryan, Tua, Baker Mayfield is our QB1, I'm cool with that. Wide receivers, a lot of really good names available there. I don't think we want a running back after the first 2 we started with, but you could talk me into Mark Andrews or TJ Hawkinson here. I'm leaning QB, but what do you think?
You know, I'm leaning QB2 or QB as well, but Andrews is a little tempting just because everybody's hurt in Baltimore right now. All the wide receivers are hurt. So it's kind of like, who's getting the ball? But he may be available on the flip anyway. But I think we should probably get a QB, unless you think, I mean, those guys in between us each have 1. So chances are at least one of them is going to take a second here, if not both.
Yeah, I think it's QB time. And for me, it would be Lawrence, top of ADP. And I feel like we're missing somebody. Yeah. But that's my lean.
Yeah, listen, I'm fine with Lawrence. I mean, Ryan is boring, and who else is there? Baker and Tua. I do like both of those guys this season, but I mean, Lawrence is fun. I'm down with that. Yeah,
I would say that I'm pretty sure Baker and Tua are going to filter back to us here. I also realized Trey Lance is not in the queue. He should be. He is, according to ADP, right behind Baker Mayfield. I don't know how you feel about him relative to these other guys, but I think he merits consideration in this group as well.
Yeah, you know, I've been trying to talk myself into Trey Lance because I know I should be into him, but for some reason I'm just not there yet. And I know I should be based on things that I've read and data and, you know, knowledge. But for some reason, I just can't seem to click that button for him every time I'm in a draft. I don't know why.
That's fine with me because I've been drafting him like crazy. So if we want to go a different direction, if we want to go a different direction, that's okay. All
right, let's see what we have here. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, I think Baker's going to surprise people. I mean, he's not, you know, I'm kind of, I've been drafting him a lot as my QB2. I mean, obviously much later in non-Superflex leagues. He's always kind of there. Him and Tua are usually the guys I end up gravitating towards as that QB2. But he just went, so that makes that easier.
Yep. Yeah, I think Baker's a little undervalued. I mean, not undervalued, but he's a fine pick where he goes.
Right. All right, we're up.
So I still don't think we want to go running back, although, these top, maybe not top three, but Carson and Darrell Henderson are both intriguing to me. Wide receiver, awesome players here. McLaurin, Allen Robinson, DJ Moore, Robert Woods. But I think we can keep waiting on wide receiver. Our tight end is still there. If Mark Andrews is someone who tempted us last round, do we just take him here?
I mean, he is tempting. I mean, I think people are underestimating him. I mean, when you look at his numbers, I don't have them in front of me, but he's always good, even though people seem to think he wasn't last year. He actually was on paper. I can't remember where he came in as far as fantasy points. And I think, a lot of those Baltimore receivers right now are hurt. I mean, it is early, but I'm good with that unless you want to go with another QB.
So that's what I'm looking at. So after us here, we have a bunch of people who still only have one quarterback. If you perceive a big drop-off from Lance and Tua down to the next group, I don't know. Real quick, what do you want to do?
Let's go Andrews and just go with it at this point. I feel like we're already rolling the dice on the QB. Let's just do it.
Yeah, that's fine. And I think in general, this is I think there's more upside to this start, right? Because if Andrews does hit, if he kind of bounces back and has another top 5 tight end type season, if we get that alongside Cook, Jones, Diggs, and serviceable quarterback play, that puts us in a really good position to compete in this league. Now, I'm not saying it's a guaranteed win or anything, but I don't necessarily feel super confident that Trey Lance is going to be that much better than, say, Zach Wilson, Ryan Fitzpatrick, maybe even Derek Carr. You know what I mean? I think if you're dropping off down to Darnold, Wentz, Goff, Newton, then we need to be worried. But the drop off from Lance to the guys, basically from Carr and up, I think it's nebulous. We don't really know exactly how close those guys are going to finish at the end of the year.
So, and also just to support our Andrews pick, I'm looking at last year. I mean, he was tight end 6 in half PPR points per game, and he had a bad season, So I feel like people kind of are writing him off, and I think he's in a situation where I think he's going to be all right. And I think in a tight end premium, now we're good, and we don't have to worry about another one for quite a while. So I like that pick.
For sure, yeah. Andrews and Hawkinson and Pitts, while I do perceive them as being a step below the top 3 tight ends, those guys are all still good enough in my perception that I would be comfortable only drafting 2 tight ends if Hawkinson, Andrews, Pitts is my number 1 at the position. And there is value in that. Again, when we talk about roster construction, if we only have to draft 2 tight ends, that opens up something. It opens up a spot to use on a different position. And because we waited on quarterback, maybe that means us drafting a 4th QB, or because we're waiting on wide receiver to some extent, maybe that means getting an extra wide receiver pick. So there's value there for sure.
Yeah, we may have to end up drafting Kellen Mond at the end when Kirk Cousins has COVID and then he ends up playing.
Does that sort of stuff factor into your analysis for drafting? Because I'm
really.
serious. I think it is kind of a consideration. I do rankings of all positions for the 2 QBs draft guide, and prepare yourselves, viewers. I am going to be plugging that like crazy eventually during this stream. But I did drop him down a couple spots because of the COVID stuff.
I mean, it's a real concern, I think, because he can miss time. I mean, same Cole Beasley, I straight up stopped drafting him, I don't know what the deal is with him, but if he's at least Cousins wants to build some sort of plexiglass thing so he can be in the meeting. Beasley just wants nothing. He doesn't want to do anything. He won't do protocol. He won't do anything. So I don't know if he's even going to be on the field. So I completely just stopped drafting him in any format. But Cousins, I guess you could take into a little bit of consideration the fact that he refuses to get vaxxed. And
and to be clear, it has less to do with me fearing that he's going to catch it and get sick and not be able to play. It has more to do with the league's protocols that make it more difficult for the unvaccinated players to stay on the field for game after game. The league has really put a lot of incentive into their structure for players to get vaccinated. And if these players are refusing to do it, if they fail a test, it's just harder for them to stay on the field for that reason. And that makes me nervous when a guy like Cousins has been so publicly open about not wanting to get vaccinated. And that's his choice, sure. But in terms of me as a fantasy drafter, I will consider that in whether or not I want to pick Cousins, especially when I don't think Cousins is drastically better than Matt Ryan, Trevor Lawrence, Baker Mayfield, Trey Lance, the same kind of middle class of QBs we were talking about. Cousins, I did have ranked kind of near the top of that group. Now I've just kind of pushed him more into the middle of that group.
Yeah, I mean, the appeal for Cousins is stacking Cousins, right? Like if you get Jefferson and then you kind of wait, or you want to get Irv Smith later, like that's really the appeal for Cousins. Like you're not going to go for Cousins to go for Cousins. He's not appealing in that way, but I feel like he is really nice and easy to stack. He's easy to get, inexpensive stack because you can grab, Jefferson and then kind of wait and just get Cousins in like 12 or 13, in a normal non-Superflex draft. I shouldn't say normal, in a non-Superflex draft. So that's really the appeal for him. I mean, his number.
Thank you for normalizing.
Yes.
Superflex as not being unnormal. Yeah. Thanks. Because we believe me, we need to get Superflex as the standard. I don't know if it ever will be. Like people's brains just aren't wired in that way. Like people see one quarterback on an NFL team. They want their fantasy team to reflect that. So I get it. Like I get why people still want to play one quarterback leagues. I would say though, if you want to play one quarterback leagues, step it up and play a 16-teamer or something. You know what I mean? Like make the quarterback position matter that way. Because if you're in a 10-team league with only one quarterback, like what are you doing? Everybody's quarterback is going to be so close in value. They're all going to be so good that like it's not fun. It's not interesting in the draft. Like look at the draft board that we've got going on here in the Superflex format. Like,
Yeah.
It's a potpourri of colors, man. I'd love this. It's fantastic.
No, it is. And I agree with you. I mean, I have kind of leagues of all types. I mean, I have a home league that they refuse to go to Superflex or 2QB, and it's fine. I just deal with it. But then I have others that are Superflex. So, I'm in basically 4 regular redraft leagues, and 2 are Superflex, 2 are not. One's auction, which is at least a different, twist of that. So it makes it a little more fun in that regard. But
oh man, 2QB Superflex auction, definitely my favorite format because like you look at this, like you look at these quarterbacks going in the first round, like think about how that translates to a salary cap or an auction format, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy. Yeah, for sure.
Or you like normally what does Christian McCaffrey go for with a $100 budget? Like $50 to $60 in most auctions. Yeah. Does Mahomes go for that much? Like you can make the argument that he should. I wouldn't pay that much for him, but at the same time, like the decisions you have to make in a Superflex or a 2QB auction is it's intense, and it opens up a lot of values in the middle and late parts of the auction, which again, like you go back after a season, you look at your auction results from a Superflex or 2QB league, and it's crazy some of the prices that these players go for. It's a lot of fun.
It is fun. I actually really enjoy auction or salary cap leagues. I think they're super fun. The drafts. It's kind of nutty. I'm in one that it's kind of funny. Every year it's like the same pattern. It's like the guys, they all get super drunk and I don't, and I just sit there and I laugh because they just all overspend, and then I just scoop up everybody at the end.
It's awesome.
So it's fun. And it's funny because every year they're like, God, and they do it again.
Did it again.
Yeah. And they're like, and every year they're like, God, Jen scooped up all the value. I'm like, look guys, this is, and every year they're like, okay. And then they do it again. Single year.
I would expect there'd be like one person every year who like is on their best behavior and tries to stay on the same level that you are. That doesn't happen. They just all just
there's like tanked. One, there's usually one. He's actually it's kind of a half local Denver industry league, half not. And by industry, I don't mean fantasy. I mean like just football in general. So there's one guy who's he has a radio show. He's on the air here, and he's usually like at the studio or something else. So there's one other person that's usually sober with me, and we just laugh at everybody else. And then, maybe one year, one other person will add on. You'd think by the 5th or 6th year of this league, half the league would catch on, but they don't.
Yeah. So
we're coming up here, and we just lost a couple. There's only been 3 QBs though since. So.
Yep. Yeah, they're starting to thin out, but again, like the players available in this tier, they're kind of close in value. We might see this Stafford drafter take one here in the 6th round. Wouldn't surprise me. But looking at what's behind him here or behind her, this drafter could wait another round too. Looking at the same kind of blah tier of guys that we're looking at and say, I don't care if I get Jones, Roethlisberger, Wilson. I just want one of them, and I think I can get that next round. Maybe they pass.
I know you are very anti-Jones, correct?
I don't think Jones is a good player. I've actually come around on him in fantasy this season, if only because the price on him has finally dropped. You know what I mean? Like in previous years, people talked about the rushing production that he would provide, and they would consider him alongside some of those other dual threat guys. And Jones isn't that good to me. But at this stage of the draft, as your QB2 in a Superflex, sure, I don't hate it.
I was just
With
curious.
that said,
I remember. Yeah.
With that said, I wouldn't draft him first of this group. In fact, I'm just going to slide him
Right.
down a little bit, just so we don't time out onto him. But I don't know if we need to take one because these guys behind us here both have two. So if we want to take another wide receiver, another running back, we do it. Or if we want to double tap QB and get our third one right away, I think that's not a bad plan either. So
all right, let's see.
What do you think?
Well, let's look at the wide receivers since we only have one. I mean, even though they don't, see, there's still some decent ones there. I mean,
Julio, Godwin, Chase, Cup, running back, Kareem Hunt, Myles Gaskin, Trey Sermon, Chase Edmonds. This is thinned out. Like, I don't think we want a tight end.
No.
So for me, it comes down to quarterback or wide receiver.
Yeah,
and
I agree with you.
You got to lean. Like, who's your favorite quarterback of this group? For me, it's probably Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, me too. I'd say Fitzpatrick as well. Yeah, and then like Darnold, but I feel like we could probably get him on the way back too.
We can get one of these guys on the way back. Like, I think, well, it looks like we timed out on Fitzpatrick, so
okay,
that's okay.
That'll work.
Right, and so I'm going to pull up the draft board again real quick so we can audit the other teams. We still have two drafters who only have one quarterback, and then everyone else has two except for this drafter in the 9 spot who has their third. They really prioritize QB. It's interesting.
Yes.
It's not a bad strategy, to be honest, kind of to lock up that safety.
Yeah, and they do have a Wilson Metcalf stack, which is nice, but
I am tempted here to keep punting wide receiver down the road and go with another QB, kind of in the similar vein. Like, we waited longer on our QB1 and QB2 than this person who has 3. Okay. But if we get 3 right away, like, I feel good about that trio, kind of regardless of whether it's Roethlisberger, Wilson, or Darnold. And Roethlisberger just went, and we were talking up QB, so it looks like these other drafters decided to get their third. Like, I think unless you're comfortable with one of these part-time guys as your QB3, now's the time to get one. No, I'm fine with
taking one now. Should we look at bye weeks? Do we care?
Like, we should, yes. That's a good call. And Fitzpatrick is 9, Lawrence is 7. So if we take Wilson or Darnold, either one's fine. So which one do you like the most?
I mean, listen, it's hard. Wilson is hard. Like, the Jets are hard for me. We all have PTSD, right, for the Jets, so it's tough. I feel like in theory, Wilson, I mean, we've heard good things from camp. Like, but I feel like Darnold might be safer. I just don't know. I'm fine with either one. I'm going to let you pick that.
All right. I have him ranked back-to-back, and I have Darnold 1 spot higher. So I think it's super, super close, but we'll take Darnold.
And he's easy, he's also easy to stack. We could possibly get, Robbie or something later if we wanted.
Yep. Robbie Anderson might make it back to us. Terrace Marshall, perhaps.
Yeah.
That was part of the reason I was interested in Lawrence where we got him, is I felt like we'd have the opportunity to get at least one wide receiver to stack with him at some point, whether it's Marvin Jones or Laviska Shenault. And actually, Chenault's probably going to go pretty soon here. And especially now that we've said his name out loud on the stream, someone's going to snipe us. That's just kind of how it works.
Yeah.
I try not to be too reserved about, what we talk about on the stream because, a real draft is going to be fluid. It's going to throw you some punches, right? And you have to react in the moment. So even if I say I want to draft a Jaguars receiver, like, that shouldn't be news to somebody who's drafting alongside us, right? Like, this is best ball. Yeah. Most people who are sharp at this know that the other drafters want to stack. So yeah, I don't feel like I'm giving away too much information by talking about these players live on the stream. And if we do get sniped on those players, then we have to pivot, audible, and do something else. That's part of the fun and part of the challenge.
And we can also stack with Fitzpatrick too. There's plenty. We can get Thomas later if we want. We can get Diami Brown or whoever else that they if we feel like it.
Are there any particular offenses, Jen, that are standing out to you as like undervalued or overvalued in general, like teams in general that you're kind of surprised aren't being drafted more highly or surprised are being drafted as high as they are?
It's funny. We were talking about Baker before, and I kind of feel like the Browns are kind of undervalued. I feel like Jarvis Landry is free. Austin Hooper is beyond free, and I feel like, that offense, I mean, people are drafting Beckham. I think people have come off Beckham a little bit. I think his ADP has dropped a little bit over the last month, but I feel like that's kind of an intriguing offense that is, number one, easy to stack in best ball because I feel like people are kind of undervaluing them. Who else? Let me think. I think Jacksonville, like you said, they're kind of fun. Jacksonville's a little bit they're fun to look at, and then it's also kind of scary because it's like
I'm super scared of Jacksonville. Yeah,
right. It's like it's all new, and you've got Urban Meyer. It's all kind of a cluster that you're not really sure what's going to happen there. It can be magic, or it could be a complete cluster. Like it just be not,
But that's where the value comes from. Is that uncertainty? That uncertainty drives the price of all these players down, and therefore, not all of them are going to hit, but some of them probably are. Whether it's Chenault, Marvin Jones, DJ Chark, like one of those receivers, maybe two, are probably going to be pretty good. Like Trevor Lawrence, even though he's a rookie, should be solid. And so, like, that's been my lean in general. Is like, don't worry about having to sort out the wide receivers. Just try to get Lawrence, because you don't have to pay that Jalen Hurts price or that Joe Burrow price, but you could get similar production. And I am nervous about the coaching staff and like how they're going to deploy everybody, but the quarterback should be pretty stable week to week is what I'm thinking. But we'll see. Yeah,
I think, the Steelers are kind of interesting too. I mean, everyone's written off Ben, but there's a lot of
reading my mind tonight, Chen. Like you keep listing teams. Yeah, no, absolutely.
We
Browns,
didn't even talk
Steelers,
about
Jags, like all three of those, like in terms of teams that I think, like you look at the ADP of like one position, it just doesn't line up with the ADP of the others. Like you look at where the Steelers wide receivers are going relative to where Roethlisberger gets drafted, and it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't, No,
and everyone's written them off, and at the same time, you can still get, and even like, I don't know, like Deontay Johnson, like some of those guys they're still pretty affordable. So I feel like, and then, what's frustrating is that I felt like the Colts were that way. Like I was loving the Colts earlier on. Now, obviously, with Carson Wentz out, it's tough, but they were so cheap and so easy to just grab at the end. Like the last kind of secondary or third stack, you could just cram it in at the very end of a draft and get, Wentz and Paris Campbell and, Mo Alley Cox or whatever. But now, of course, I don't know what's going to happen there. So, I've been staying away from those guys. But someone just took Carson Wentz.
I mean, this is the risk. Yeah, this is the risk you run when you wait to take your QB3 is you're taking Carson Wentz or Cam Newton, Mac Jones. The Superflex format forces you into considering these timeshare quarterbacks. And I think Wentz is actually a fine pick there as a QB3 because, when he comes back, he has to be the starter there because it shouldn't be Jacob Eason. It shouldn't be Sam Erlinger.
Yeah.
I should probably learn how to pronounce his name. I have to pull the pronunciation guide. I mean, I can't even speak in the first place, let alone pronounce names. So I don't know.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I've kind of somehow talked myself into Cam, like in the last couple of weeks. I think because I wrote an article that came out, I think last week. It was, bounce back candidates. So I kind of, I read, I was reading a bunch about him and looking at his, I was like, I kind of talked myself into Cam. I mean, the guy's going to get like 6-7 rushing touchdowns. He's, I think he's, last year was kind of he got a crappy bounce. I mean, it was, he didn't really learn the playbook. Then he had COVID. He never really recovered. And I feel like, yes, Mac Jones may take over at some point, but I think Cam, it might have some good weeks at the start. And I feel like, I've kind of talked myself into him, especially super late. I mean, Superflex is different, but like, you can get him in, 14th, 15th round of some of these, other best balls. And I think it's, I was completely like, oh no. And then somehow I've talked myself into him in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. That risk of Mac Jones taking over is what makes me not like Cam in best ball, but in a managed league where, if Newton does get benched, you can just drop him for some other position. Like that's where I'm interested. Like if you get Cam Newton as the QB 34 or whatever, in a league where, you can drop him and work the waiver wire eventually, like if he starts hot, even if he only gives you like 1 or 2 usable games, like that could be good enough or that could be important enough. Now, the flip side of that is if you're drafting him as the QB 34 or whatever, that probably means that you have in a Superflex or 2 QB format, you have 2 quarterbacks who are better than him. So maybe you wouldn't even get that value starting him in the early season. So maybe the more I think about this, I could be talking myself out of it. And maybe the place for Cam is in a 1 quarterback format where you manage your team, right? Where you wait till the last round, you take him as your QB, you start him until he's not the starter, and then when he's not, you go pick up some other schmo off the waiver wire because in a 12-team 1 quarterback format, like there are going to be quarterbacks on the waiver wire.
No, I agree, but I think the thing, with Cam, I don't know, it's kind of intriguing. I mean, he actually has some weapons now. I mean, he had nothing last year. I guess more from just a fan perspective. I'm interested to see what he does this year. if he can actually, prove everyone wrong and be Cam, be old Superman Cam, because I mean, he does. I don't know. Are we close?
We're close,
Okay.
2 picks away. And Ferris has a question about Pittsburgh that I'm going to defer until after our 2 picks here. But Ferris, we're going to get to your question. Stand by. I pulled up the overall rankings here just to kind of, and I took the quarterback side of the queue. I don't think we need to consider quarterback. Trey Sermon, Logan Thomas, Chase Claypool, Noah Fant, Odell Beckham. I like a lot of the wide receivers in this range. We could take 2 back-to-back. We could stack Thomas with Fitzpatrick theoretically and then take another position. Or we could take another running back. I'm not sure which way you're leaning. You got a strong feel one way or the other?
I feel like we should at least take one wide out. I mean, we only have one, and I feel like, I mean, now granted, there's still a ton of value, and I just don't know where we'll be all the way. If we don't take one in these 2 picks, where we'll be in 24 more picks. I feel like we should at least grab one.
I agree. Now, the question is, do we take that player now, or do we take him in the next round?
Pull up the board and let's see what do the other guys have.
It's a great way to do it.
Kind of predict what they only have 1 too. So
basically the same roster constructions as we have, which is heavy running back, heavy quarterback with 1 wide receiver. And this drafter in the 2 spot, he has Hawkinson instead of a 3rd RB.
Right. So they're definitely going to at least take 1. They each of them may double up also. So
Ferris picked Sermon. Or no, we took a wide receiver, took Beckham. I was kind of hoping Beckham was going to make it to us there after all of our Browns hype there.
Yep.
So which of these wide receivers are interesting to you? I'll put a couple in the queue at least.
I'm not a huge Claypool person, but I get the appeal. I like Robbie. I like Sutton. That's probably about it in that. I mean, LaVisca's there, which we could do. For sure.
I feel like based on ADP, we should wait on Laviska if that's the one we want. I'm gonna leave Anderson there, and we'll pull up running back. I like the Niners offense. I think Trey Sermon is interesting. But
I could be
we could probably wait until next round if we want Sermon or Mostert. If we put it to Robbie Anderson versus Sermon, what does your gut say?
I mean, I would probably go Robbie. I like Sermon, but there's just Mostert. There's just too much going on there.
Yep.
Robbie, we know is
totally fair.
And him and Darnold just have this thing that I'm hoping translates again.
I like it. And I mean, we saw Robbie Anderson's usage last year be the type of usage you want to see in best ball, right? Those big splash plays, whereas DJ Moore was more of the underneath receiver. So that's interesting to me. I should have brought up Logan Thomas. I meant to kind of weave him into the conversation.
You did, but we went over him briefly, and then we didn't.
Right.
So.
What I'm saying is maybe we should have given him more consideration. Although I think with Andrews, we probably didn't need to. We'll see.
It would have really only been for the stack, and you know what? Like I said, you said we have Andrews. We don't really need another one right now.
So we had QBs in the queue earlier. Now I'm just going to load up all the running backs just for comparison. Again, this isn't how we would draft them. This is just so we can see who's available in one position versus another.
Look, Sermon is there. If you want to take him, I can get behind that.
Yeah, I like it. Again, like it's kind of just the Niners offense I want to be tied to. But you could talk me into Sutton. It looks like Jerry Jeudy went ahead of Sutton, which I do agree with. Or one of the Jacksonville guys to stack. But for me, I like getting a running back here and kind of again deferring wide receiver a little bit longer.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Once again,
Trey Sermon, welcome to the team, buddy.
Yeah, let's can you flip to the board so we can just peek at bye weeks because we didn't do that. I'm just curious how we did on the running backs. Oh, we're good. Okay.
7, 13, 6. Now, is that something you care about as early as like your RB3 that you're really trying to not get those bye weeks lined up? Because I'll be honest, I don't give a shit about that stuff at this stage of the draft. Not at running back or wide receiver. Now, at tight end or quarterback where I'm drafting fewer of them and I need them to line up, that's different.
I don't really mostly for quarterback and tight end. Running back, I'll peek. If I'm in between two people and I really can't decide, I may just peek and kind of see just to make sure I don't have like literally all three of them with the same, But I mean, no, it usually I don't start looking until later on just to make sure I didn't completely screw myself.
Yep. All right. So I teased this before our picks. Ferris has asked this question. are we overvaluing the Pittsburgh wide receivers or are we undervaluing Ben? He says he feels like we're undervaluing Ben and there's regression in the passing game. He's high on Deontay and Claypool. It's a good question. I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. For me, it's not that like all of the Pittsburgh wide receivers are overvalued. It's that probably one of them is. And if I had to point my finger at one and say this is the player who's overvalued, I do think it's Claypool. I know you said you're not really a Claypool person either, but this is kind of like a Bill Belichick running back committee situation where just give me Juju because he's the player with the lowest ADP. Whereas Claypool, I think, relative to his role, like I don't think he's going to see the same targets that Deontay and Juju are going to see necessarily game to game. In best ball, that doesn't matter as much, but in a managed league, I want that predictability a little bit more. And so I think Claypool is the player I would fade. I would bump Roethlisberger up a little bit relative to cost. But do you agree with that? Do you have a different take? What do you think, Jen?
No, I'm right there. I've really been mostly going with Deontay. I don't have a lot of Juju. I've got a little bit here and there, but I just kind of, for some reason, I prefer Deontay. I feel like he's gonna be fine this year as far as his drops go, and I feel like he's just gonna be, especially like in PPR. I feel like he's gonna get a ton of targets. So
no, I agree. Deontay is the clear number one there. He's the one who I think is appropriately valued, I guess, is what it comes down to. And based upon that, that's why I think Roethlisberger is undervalued. Like if Deontay is going to be as good as we all think he is, then Roethlisberger should probably be drafted higher. Now, you can kind of make that argument for a lot of the quarterbacks in that middle class with Roethlisberger. So it does come down to personal preference. But for me, someone who like is a little bit quarterback agnostic, like I don't care a whole lot which quarterbacks I have as long as they're locked in starters in a super flex. Like I end up with the guys that other drafters don't like. And that oftentimes is Roethlisberger. Sometimes it's Derek Carr. Sometimes it's Darnold or Zach Wilson. But that's why I end up with a lot of these kind of bargain basement QBs. I guess this isn't the true bargain basement. We're not talking, Tyrod Taylor. Like that's where you're really going deep, but kind of that low end of the middle class.
Well, so speaking of bargain basement in Pittsburgh, I know that I can probably hear the groans from here as I say, but I'm all about Ebron. I got no problem. Yes. I write
hands raised emoji.
Article. Yeah, it's so funny because TJ, because he edits most of my articles and he just laughs. He's like, I'm going to buy you an Ebron jersey. I'm like, look, he's ridiculously cheap. Pat Fryermuth is not going to get, the reps. It's going to be Ebron, and he's cheap as all, it's like, yes, he's not going to be like a top 10 tight end, but you know what? He may be a top 15, and he's super cheap, and you can always get him. And, people laugh, but I'll take Ebron. I will always take him because he's there, and I feel like he's got at least one more year in the tank, and until Fryermuth may do something, but, I feel like Ben's going to find him. I mean, look, if Ben has like half an arm or whatever he's got going on with his elbow, he may hit up Ebron a lot more than people think. So I have no problem taking him later in drafts. Like you said, I have no problem taking the ugly guys that nobody wants. Like give me Ebron in the 19th round, all
especially
day.
in best ball, right? Where you smooth out the spike weeks with the dud weeks. Like Ebron is that type of player. That makes a lot of sense. The big concern for me with Ebron and why I do think, the drop of his ADP makes sense is if they do lean more on the running game with Najee Harris, they still have so many receiving threats that Ebron's usage is going to be really variable. It's going to be quite a roller coaster ride, I'd imagine. And again, best ball smooths that out for you, but in a managed league, like counting on Ebron as your tight end one.
Oh yeah, no,
like
I'm not
you can't
talking
do
redraft.
It. You
no, I'm not
do
talking redraft. I'm not taking Ebron there. But in best ball, look, he's going to have a couple games where he may get 2 touchdowns and 100 yards, and then he may do nothing in a week. But like you said, best ball, you want those spike weeks. So
he's the perfect tight end 3 for FFPC.
For sure, I'm definitely not recommending taking Ebron for redraft. No, but he's great for this format.
There are a lot of those kind of really low end tight ends that I'm interested in for that reason. And we can talk more about them when it comes time to draft them. I don't necessarily want to step on the players that we like this early. I do want to pull up one more follow-up here from Ferris regarding Claypool. Very talented. I can't dispute that. But for me, it is a volume thing. Like, again, if they're running the ball more in Pittsburgh, and I think Deontay is going to soak up the bulk of those targets, I think Juju is still good, and Ben does rely on him to some extent. I just don't know if the targets are going to be regular enough for Claypool to be great or to match where you have to draft him relative to some of the other wide receivers who are going. Now, again, best ball, like you might get enough spike weeks from him that it doesn't matter. But in a season-long league, like unless you really don't think Juju is any good anymore, if you really don't think Deontay Johnson is that alpha in the Pittsburgh wide receiver group, then I don't know. Like Claypool scares me. I see the appeal. He's just not the type of player for me. But we're coming back up here. Let's pull the draft from up again. Running back is getting thinned out quite a bit, which makes sense. This is kind of the stage of the draft where you start to run out of those warm bodies. So the guys that you expect to get value. So I'm going to pull a few in the queue, and I'll pull up wide receiver alongside. Actually, let's pull up tight end first, because this is something that we should consider. Is it time to take a tight end too? It might be. And we can talk about who we like after Ferris picks, because I'm pretty sure he also needs a tight end too. I don't want to necessarily give away who we might like.
There's still a few that I'm totally down with, even before we get to the Ebron tier.
Yeah.
Ooh, I was going to suggest LaVisca. Ferris, you stinker.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's watching the stream. He knows that was a player we were interested in. But let's look at all the wide receivers available. Man, that would have been nice. I think there is a drop off to this next group of wide receivers, although there are players here I like. I don't necessarily think we want another running back right away. I feel pretty good about Cook, Jones, and Sermon as our group. So for me, it does come down to tight end or wide receiver, I think, with this pick. And with the Hunter Henry injury news, like Jonnu Smith wheels up, what do you think?
I can get behind that for sure. I've come around. Well, I had come around on both those guys over the last month, but now that Henry's hurt.
All right, let's take Jonnu. I haven't drafted him a lot because pre Hunter Henry injury, I was all about Henry. Like, I think Henry is just a better player than Jonnu Smith, or a better like all around tight end, which to me means that he was going to be on the field more. But now that he's hurt, that kind of goes away. And if anything, like Hunter Henry's ability as a blocker, maybe that means that Jonnu Smith should have been the guy I was drafting the whole time, because he's going to be used more as a wide receiver. I'm not entirely sure about that. But I like both of them in the New England offense. Like, just from a scheme perspective, like their wide receivers are garbage. Like the tight ends are going to get a lot of work.
Oh yeah, they added them both this season to do that, and they're going to do it. And there really is nobody else. I mean, Nelson Aguilar, come on. I mean, I know people are on board with him and Myers. I'm not. So I think, and they paid Smith a lot of money first. So I'm totally down with that. But really, it's funny because earlier in the offseason, I was thinking, they're going to cancel each other out. I'm not taking either one. And then I kind of talked to myself, and I actually wrote a depth chart battle piece for 4for4, which was Jonnu versus Henry. And I talked myself into Jonnu there. So nice. I like the pick. I'm good with it. Cool. All right, what are we going to do on the way back? We didn't look at their bye weeks, but whatever.
I just checked it. We're good. We're good on the bye weeks. Yeah,
okay,
I
cool.
had the thought to check it after we made the pick. Of course, I'm like, shit, should have checked the bye weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm not crazy about these running backs. Like, I don't think there's a significant advantage to taking one of them over the others. Like, one of these guys could probably make it back.
I like Jamal Williams, but I don't know that we have to take him now. I don't know if he's gonna.
I think it's a wide receiver time for me.
I don't love any of these guys, but at the same time,
who do you like though? If we say that we're definitely taking a wide receiver here, what's your first instinct? Which one of these guys jumps to the front of your queue?
Mean, ADP. If you throw ADP out the window, like probably Brown or Gallup. Curtis Samuel. I mean, we do have Fitzpatrick. If we want
the injury scares me off Samuel, and I've drafted him too much. I'm going to say no Samuel.
He does have a groin issue.
I like the Brown idea. Like that works for me. Okay. Are you on board for Brown? Like, I think any of Brown, Mike Williams, Debo could make sense, but let's take Antonio Brown.
Okay. I don't have a ton of him, so I'm good with that.
Oh, we had Kev.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kev. We didn't do it.
All right, bud. We'll see if he makes it back. Probably not.
I doubt it. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I do like Debo, but I don't know. Like I told you earlier in the broadcast, I don't know if I'm completely on board with Trey Lance. So selling all of that, I feel like it's going to be Kittle and run game there, but I could be wrong.
So we got Rick and Rivers promoting their Burrow stack, 2/3 of the Burrow stack. So let's pull up the draft board. Actually, this is probably a good time now that we just picked to audit some of the other teams, and not necessarily for what they're doing and how it's going to affect our draft, but which of these other teams do you like? Like, which of the drafts jump out to you?
See.
Like 10 spot, we see Burrow in the 3rd, T. Higgins in the 6th, Tyler Boyd in the 10th. For best ball, that is pretty spicy. Can't deny it.
It is, and I like Goddard. I like Woods. Like I told you earlier, I'm not a huge Zeke fan, but if he pans out, that's a great pick there.
And as your RB2 behind Derrick Henry, I mean,
exactly.
I can't argue with that. Like this team's coming together nicely.
It is, but this is full PPR, right? So Henry's, but no, it's still that's a good team. Zach Wilson needs to pan out though as your QB too.
That's the question mark is QB because not only does Zach Wilson need to pan out, like Joe Burrow needs to pan out, right? Like Burrow is coming off a huge injury. The reports out of camp so far have not been good. Wink, wink. Like it's a little dicey. That's again another reason why I'm willing to pass on him and Hurts and wait for Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, as opposed to paying this price. But again, like the talent is definitely there. If Burrow cleans up his act by the start of the season, like this could be a really nice team for sure.
I do like Ferris. I hate to say it because you're in here, but I do like your team.
You hate to say it? You hate to praise someone else?
I'm kidding. But no, I do like that team. I think it's solid. I mean, it doesn't. There's not a ton of like stacking ability. Well, he's got Mostert and Lance, but at the same time. It's
really
a
nice
solid,
wide receivers. Really nice wide
it's a solid team. And you've got Gibson and Gaskin should be fine. And Mostert, if he's healthy, should be fine too. And I like Everett too.
Kittle.
So
Lance Mostert Kittle is a nice stack.
And I didn't even notice Kittle. Yeah, totally.
I don't hate the running back, the Niners running back with Lance stack because then you're kind of locking yourself into 2/3 of their rushing touchdowns, maybe. I mean, Sermon's going to get some. Deebo Samuel might get 1 or 2. Like they have some trick plays for a lot of their guys there in San Francisco. But yeah,
it's a good team.
Yeah, I like it. I'm not sold on this running back group though. Antonio Gibson, I'm fine with. Like he's a good player. Myles Gaskin is definitely a value. Mostert I like, but there is risk there with this running back group. That's the weak point of this team.
I mean, it's not ours, like no one. Yeah, just kidding.
Clearly, no one can beat our team. Let's talk about who's going to get second place in this draft. Are there any draft starts that kind of rub you the wrong way? And again, like I don't want to talk a whole lot of crap about the other teams because there are many different ways to win. But just in terms of your own drafting sensibilities, Jen, which of these kind of don't look right to you?
I don't love the guy next to us to the left, team 2. I don't know. Taylor scares me a little bit, and then you're counting on Ryan.
Mahomes can smooth over a lot of warts, though. So there is that.
But that's really it. Like, I mean, yes. Listen. I mean, Chubb's good. Hawkinson's good. I just don't know if there's enough there, like balance-wise. Like you're counting on a lot of Mahomes to carry that team. You're counting on, you're counting on Taylor to be what people think he might be, but then he may not be. Ryan, we just don't know what Ryan we're going to get. Julio scares me immensely. I mean, he's already hurt, and it hasn't even started. So, and then the rest of it, you're kind of, I don't love that team. I think there's good sides to it, but I would say that's probably my least favorite build, at least.
I think Taylor and Chubb as your first 2 running backs are a little scary, mostly because, Taylor in that Colts offense with a bad QB under center, you might just not get the ceiling games you want from Taylor. There might just be a lot more just kind of 12 to 18 point type of performances. Chubb is not going to be involved as a receiver. That scares me in a PPR format like this.
Right.
And these other 2 down here, Damian Harris and Leonard Fournette, like kind of suffer the same fate. But at the same time, like if you pair all 4 of them together, maybe that's enough to work. But what I do like about this team, in addition to Patrick Mahomes, is the tight ends. Hawkinson and Logan Thomas together in a tight end premium format. I think both those guys are going to be target hogs for their teams, especially if the Curtis Samuel injury pans out to be bad. Like Logan Thomas is going to get a lot of work, and that could elevate this team to being pretty competitive, depending upon how the rest of the draft shakes out for them, right? There's still a lot of picks left, a lot of ways to catch holes, but if in defense of this team, and this is kind of the way I like to play it. I like you to kind of be the bad cop, and I can be the good cop. You know what I'm saying?
I'm down with that. Let me ask you, how are you feeling? Are you buying the Damian Harris? Like, are you buying that he's the lead back and that we should be drafting him?
I've always been a Damian Harris guy. I was drafting him a lot last season, and so the price is still low this year. I'm drafting him again a lot, but I've kind of come to the saturation point with him, unfortunately, to where now I'm just like, I can't draft any more Damian Harris because he is risky. There's a lot of risk there in that pick. So while I agree the upside is good, I think he's a good player. I'd like him in that team, especially with theoretically a lot of 2 tight end sets. Cam Newton potentially is another rushing threat to open up space for Harris. The committee there is still a concern for sure. Like James White's going to get touches. Ramondre Stevenson, Sony Michel are there as well. Like we don't know exactly how those touches are going to shake out. We see it year after year with those committees in New England. That's the reason to be afraid. But I do think Harris is the best running back there. So I'm interested because he's so cheap. But let's talk about our next pick. We're coming up pretty soon here.
I saw someone took my Jamal Williams, which is a bummer, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm going to load up some more running backs into the queue just so we can see what we're working with. I think we're good on tight end at this point. I don't want to draft a third one. I don't want to draft another QB, although we might want to look at just who's available just to show the draft from what's up. So it's Garoppolo, Mac Jones, Drew Lock. So for me, it's one of these running backs or one of these wide receivers. A lot of interesting names here. I almost wish we had taken Wilson earlier so we could stack him with Elijah Moore. The hype on Moore is getting out of control.
It is pretty, it's pretty massive.
I don't mind, Hines, Latavius Murray, Singletary, Lindsey, White as kind of, just a running back dart throw here, but we could wait till our next pick to make that dart throw.
Murray's one of those guys, like he's not sexy, but he's always like, because I write the win rates every year and he's always in there. Like he's always on winning teams. And I think this year is going to be no different. I think with, Thomas out, I think they're going to use, they use Kamara in the passing game. And I think Murray's going to get a lot of carries because they're going to want to, they're not going to want to just pound Kamara to death. So do
you like Murray that much more than the rest of these running backs that you would take in here? Or would you take a wide receiver? We're almost done, aren't we? So we're going to end up. I guess we're taking Murray, but I do like Lindsey as a gamble because I feel like he can end up being the lead back there sooner than later. But I think Murray's more of a guarantee. Like the rest of these guys, like Madison, like I feel like they need something to happen. Madison's not going to get full on regular usage. Like every year we think he is, and he's just not. Yeah.
So I feel like Murray is definitely going to be part of that offense, whether regardless of what happens to Kamara. So I do. I don't know if we needed to take him right then, but we did. So I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean, as our running back for kind of. At this point, all the running backs are going to be sketchy. And to get a guy like Murray, who we know is going to have at least some usage game to game, like he's not a total handcuff like Alexander Madison is.
Right.
That's why I'm interested in actually drafting him in this spot. Like it's the 12th round, right? Like none of the running backs here are good. No. But with that said, like the wide receivers available here, like there's a lot more to like, whether it's more, whether it's kind of the big play upside of McCole Hardman, Marquise Brown, Curtis Samuel, the PPR upside of Pittman or Gage. Like maybe we should have just double tapped wide receiver. We only have 3 to this point, Diggs, Anderson, Brown. Right. But I think now that we have our 4th running back, we can really hammer the wide receiver position. And so I'm curious to hear who you like out of this group. We'll see what the number 2 drafter does here. They took a running back. So we got our pick of the litter in this kind of upside tier of wide receivers. Who do you like?
Right. I'm not really a Hardman person, and I would say Moore. I kind of like Davis over Moore. I know I'm a weirdo. Most people are all about Moore. I think people are forgetting about Davis. I think he's going to be good. I like Gage okay. I like Pittman. I'd be okay with any of those guys, really. Oh, are you looking at quarterback?
No, I just pulled up I wanted to see where Samuel was relative. Like, how far is Samuel falling because of the injury, right?
He's
like,
we have
Fitzpatrick on this team, like, and it is best ball, right? We need we need things to go right. So is it worth just going for that stack here?
What pick? Where are we? Like what?
12 times 12 is 144. So we're
so he's fallen. I mean, it's a groin, so groins are tough. I don't know.
Yeah. But well, I'm gonna put him in the queue just because again, for me,
we have 8 seconds.
Hardman, Brown. I don't know. You make the call. Who do you want?
Let's go more. Let's go more. I don't have a
too
lot
slow,
of
Jen. We got by the time I heard you, we had 0. We got
all
Samuel.
right. You know what? Listen, if Samuel is actually listen, it's early. He can recover, and we could be loving live. So it's round.
I think earlier in this same stream I said I don't want to take Samuel again because I've been drafting him too much. And
we just did.
I know. That's on me. That's the host's fault. I apologize.
It is. But listen, we got a stack, and you know what? He's hurt, but it's super early. So maybe, and he's not practicing, right? So maybe he'll be. So maybe he'll pan out for us. I have a lot of Samuel from earlier in the season, so I sure hope he pans out. Those groins are scary though, because they just don't go away a lot of the time. But the good news is he's, it's not like it's in season, and he's, so we're really early. Look, we're in, what is that, round 13? I mean, at this point, like if 13. He comes back in week 5 or 6 or whatever, it's still going to be all right.
Well, that's it. He's not a starter for us, right? We only need to start 2 wide receivers any given week. So between Diggs and Robbie Anderson and Antonio Brown, theoretically, those guys we drafted earliest to be our wide receiver backbone. Curtis Samuel is more of an upside play. And considering the build that we started with, where we went heavy on running back early, we have our 2 tight ends locked up. We can spend most of the rest of our picks on wide receiver to make up for any downside that Samuel has due to injury.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine. I mean, I think that see, look at that. He thinks it's a good pick.
On board. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate that.
He slid, like a round and a half or something like that. So
right. And that's really what it came down to for me is like I wouldn't have taken him at ADP or where I would have taken him, 2 weeks ago. But in this stage of the draft, when we have Fitzpatrick on the roster already, I talked myself back into it. I'm sorry.
Me too. I like it. I'm excited. Great pick. And then Moore went right after. So,
Well, I mean, Ferris is just creeping on all of our picks. Like he said he wanted Sermon. He settled for Mostert. We wanted Beckham. We settled for Robbie Anderson. It's just it's dueling banjos over here between the 3 and 4 spots.
Yep. That's okay. Do we? Oh, no, that's right. Okay.
There goes Tyrod Taylor. I want to know what you think about the Houston situation because this team is a mess. Like Brandon Cooks, you kind of have to draft him high because he's the only good receiver there. He's going to get a ton of targets. But is that offense just going to be so bad that it doesn't matter? Like, I think it might. It's kind of terrifying.
It is terrifying. The only player I've really been taking is Phillip Lindsay. And he's terrifying too, honestly, because you get scared. You're like, okay, are they going to be – they are going to be behind in every game, and they're just going to have to huck it. But who is going to be hucking it? I love Phillip Lindsay. There's no secret there. I mean, the guy is like horrendous. No, it's not even that. It's like you look at what he's accomplished. I mean, the guy shows up in the league undrafted. He busts out 2,000-yard seasons in a row. He got hurt last year, and then he gets let go or dissed for Melvin Gordon, and they bring in Mike Boone, and then he goes to and it sucks that he went to Houston. It really did because I feel like. But look, I mean, you're looking at what? David Johnson, Mark Ingram, Rex Burkhead. Like, I feel like Lindsey's going to end up being the lead back there. Now, will it help, in a crappy offense if you're the lead back? Is that a good thing? I don't know. You know what I mean?
See, I think
where
that
he's
that
being
playing,
drafted, like, why not? I mean,
I think that playing from behind part of it is what makes Lindsey not appealing to me. Right. And it's actually why I think David Johnson is a little undervalued, as uninspiring of a pick as he is. Like, because he's such a prolific pass catcher, I think that there's going to be enough just kind of week to week work for him. Like, even if he's just like a juiced up James White type, like there's going to be a role for David Johnson in that offense, especially because their receivers after Cooks aren't good. But with that said, to keep David Johnson able to play all those snaps at the end of games when they're behind, like Phillip Lindsay might need to carry the load early on in games. And if they can, block for him, he is a talented player. Like, he could bust off enough big runs, have enough early game appeal to where, week to week, he's not always great, but you're going to have some good games. And best ball, where he goes in ADP, Lindsay, I do think is a value. I agree with you. I am a little intrigued by Rex Burkhead as like kind of the arbitrage on both of them because he's free. Like, he's a last round pick if you really wait on running back. But when you start talking yourself into a player like Rex Burkhead on the Texans, it's like you've galaxy brained off to like a whole new galaxy altogether. and
well,
just go for a better offense. So that's the way I look at it.
Right. Well, okay. So in true me fashion, I'm going to throw out a Jordan Eakins for you.
Yes.
In this offense, I feel like once again, we don't know who's throwing the ball. Whoever it be, it may have to hit up Eakins in the middle. Short passes. I feel like they don't have. There's not a lot going on there, and Eakins has shown flashes of being good in that offense. I mean, the Texans really haven't used their tight end very well or very much, but I've been throwing out some darts on Eakins in the final round in some of these best ball, because what if he hits? He's free. I mean, he's beyond free.
Who gets more targets this year, Eakins or Eric Ebron?
Oh, I mean, it has to be Ebron, but then again, I don't know.
Does it?
I guess it doesn't. It just depends. I mean, the Houston offense is completely up in the air. Like, we don't know what's going to happen there. Like, if it ends up being Watson, which I really doubt.
Doesn't sound like it's going to be.
No, it's really not. But I mean, at the same time, Eakins could end up being a sneaky dude that just gets a lot. He may not score a lot, or maybe he will. Who knows? Oh,
we'll see.
Kevin says Eakins is a super sleeper. Yeah, I've been throwing some darts at him because why not? He's been close to being fantasy relevant. Like last year, he was pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
I'm more interested in that type of tight end in the standard best balls here at the FFPC, the 28 rounders, where you're often drafting 4 tight ends. In those sorts of builds, those are the perfect types of guys to target late, because if they're your 4th tight end and they only get 3 spike weeks, that's good enough. Like Ebron, Eakins, like that's perfect. Like, and when you're comparing them to like the real dregs of the wide receiver and running back position, like those tight end weeks, thanks to the tight end premium scoring, like those spike weeks from the tight end position are worth a little bit more than they are from other positions. We're coming back up here, and
we're going receiver, right?
Yeah, I mean, the running backs are.
Ooh, Marvin Jones is sitting there looking pretty.
All right. Actually, I probably shouldn't keep putting running backs on the queue just because we keep timing out. But we're on the clock here. Let's pull up wide receiver. And you mentioned Marvin Jones. I think Russell Gage is fine here just as a PPR play. My gut is to go with the stack here and take Marvin Jones.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm down.
All right, let's stop wasting time on our clock and just start making the picks when we both agree that something works for us.
Let's talk about our next pick. Therefore, we won't.
Yeah, so I'm going to audible here and put the wide receivers in the queue. So at least if we're getting auto drafted a wide receiver, it'll be someone from the top of ADP at a position we actually want, as opposed to running back. And if you want me to take some of these folks off the board,
you can take Beasley out. Like I said, I can't.
I just added him. I was like, I can't do it. She doesn't want Beasley.
But yeah, throw the draft board up again so we can kind of see what's happening. Yeah.
I mean, at this point, it is kind of just it's a bit of a best player available or like team need sort of situation with most picks. And frankly, maybe we should just look at our roster. So we'll scroll down and take a look at that. Just to kind of show what's going on. We got our 3 quarterbacks, Fitzmagic, Darnold, Lawrence, running back. I feel solid about this, even though it's only 4 guys. Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook is going to carry a lot of weight. And then I like Sermon. Murray's fine. Wide receiver, it's come together really nicely, to be honest. Yeah. And our tight ends are fine. Like running back is the weak point. Yeah, running back's the weak point. But, I mean, we can throw a couple more darts at that position. Yeah. That's no problem. Let's see who's left. We got 3 picks left.
Yeah. All right, pull up some running backs here let's see if there's anyone that we want in this next.
So it is dart throw time, right? And I know you recently dropped an article that featured one of the names I'm looking at on the screen. I'm not going to say that name out loud because it's also a player that I'm very interested in. And then at wide receiver, I like a lot of the dart throws in this range. Gage, I think, is fine. He just went. But Rondale Moore in Arizona, speaking of an offense I want to be invested in, Rondale Moore, where he's going, if he ends up being the wide receiver too, I think I would prefer to take him over any of the running backs here. Okay. But what do you think? Do we need the running back stand out to you as someone you like more than the others?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say the names, right? But yeah, there's a couple in there that I would absolutely take, but they may be there when we come back.
I think they are, and I think you and I are reading each other's mind. I should probably just chat to you like in the private part of our
take
our
more,
stream. But let's take Rondale. What is your take on the Arizona receivers? Do you think Rondale Moore is the wide receiver too? Do you think AJ Green's going to bounce back, or are you in for a Christian Kirk recovery? Like, there's a lot of question marks there, but Kyler Murray is a top 3, top 4 quarterback. They should run a high pace. Like, there are going to be a lot of targets there. If we can figure that out, that's a cheat code for fantasy drafts.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was having a conversation with someone on Twitter about this yesterday, that I find myself going naked Kyler a lot instead, because it's just I'm a little nervous about that. And there's only a few quarterbacks. Like, I feel like Kyler and Lamar Jackson are the two that I kind of find myself not stacking.
Jackson for sure, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of find myself going naked, unless I end up getting Hopkins, but that's kind of a weird build. But Moore, he's cheap. He's easier to get, later. I don't know. As much as I love AJ Green as a UGA homer, I just don't see it happening for him. And I feel like Christian Kirk, I can't do it. Him and like Andy Isabella, like I can't really wrap my mind around going there again.
I wanted Kirk to be a thing, and it's like the reports out of camp are just not good. It's not looking good for my boy.
Yeah, so I just feel like, I mean, obviously somebody has to, show up and do that, but it may end up being Edmonds, instead of a wideout. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen there.
Yeah. AJ Green's the big wild card to me. Like, does he have anything left in the tank? It hasn't been a great situation for him in Cincinnati, but at the same time, if a player is really that good, they can kind of transcend that to some extent. And I just don't know if Green has got it anymore. And for that reason, like, again, Rondale Moore is a player I'm very interested in.
Yeah, and he's super cheap, especially in this format, because they all slip. So yeah, I think that's I like that pick. And it's fun to have rookie, it's fun to have some rookie exposure.
Mm-hmm. So let's take one more quick break to talk about 4for4.com. I mentioned this earlier, but if you sign up for a subscription at the site, you will get a voucher to use at the FFPC worth up to $35. So if you're a new user at FFPC, you get $35. If you're a returning user, they give you $10 to use towards the draft. So that's something you really want to do because, one, you get a free draft out of it theoretically, and two, you get all the tools at 4for4 to prep for your drafts. And this goes beyond just the articles that Jen and other writers are putting out there. Like, there are a bunch of great resources, just actual tools and widgets on the site that you can use. Jen, are there any that you find yourself using a lot or that you think are maybe underappreciated by the general public in terms of what's available at 4for4?
Yeah, there's so much. I mean, the hotspot tool is awesome to look at the, granted, it updates as the season goes on, so it's fantastic to look at, the matchups, individual matchups with defenses. For this time of year, the ADP Bargain Tool is awesome.
For sure.
It gives you all the guys that are bargains right now on ADP. I really I also like the Fantasy Points browser. It's so easy. You can just run in there and kind of look at, while we were talking, I looked up, Andrews last year. It took me 2 seconds. And so you kind of, it goes back all the way to 2013. You can look at every single player and what they've been doing. So those are kind of my favorites. I mean, there's so many to get on there and play around with.
And even just at a base level, you can go to John Paulson's rankings, like one of the most accurate rankers of all time, and you can filter his projections based upon your format. And a lot of the stuff is already baked in. So you don't have to go in and manually add, 1.5 PPRs for your tight ends if you're drafting an FFPC league. There's a drop down, and you can just click FFPC. It gives you tight end premium scoring alongside all the other standard FFPC scoring settings, and it ranks according to those with the projections. It's really cool. And if you're like me and you draft on a lot of different sites, it can really help you kind of filter back and forth between no PPR, half PPR, full PPR, tight end premium, all these different varieties of fantasy that are available to us these days. The rankings are just very simple, very clean to use. So there go all the 4for4 plugs. We won't do that again until the end of the stream. Let's get back to the draft room. Oh,
I'd like to plug what Kevin. I want to thank you for saying that. That was very kind. say that my kicker analysis alone is worth the price of a sub. So that's very sweet. Thank you.
I want to talk kickers with you after the draft if you have time.
Oh, yeah. I'll always talk to you. There's a lot of kicker stuff going on. There's a lot of battles right now.
That's why I want to talk to you.
I mean, nobody cares, but,
Zane Gonzalez finally has a job.
Yeah.
Thank you. Jeez, what took so long? Come on. We're on the clock.
Oh, we are on the clock. What are we doing? We haven't talked about it at all.
This is the joy of streaming. So.
Ooh, the guy that I like is still there.
Can I just click his name? Can I just highlight Damian Williams? Because that's who we're talking about, right?
That is who we're talking about, correct.
All right. I'm glad I read your mind on that. I read your players to draft after pick 150, and this is one that I couldn't agree with more. Like, David Montgomery has always been uninspiring to me. Mm-hmm. Do we not want to just make this pick? Yeah,
let's do it.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, Montgomery's uninspiring. Cohen's hurt. I just feel like at this point in this draft, you got to take Williams.
Well, and you get the Damian Williams, Bill Lazor connection, too, from their days in Miami together. Like, there's a reason Williams went there.
And people forget, like, he was good. He just opted out last year, but people kind of forgot. Like, he carried the Chiefs in the playoffs not carried them, obviously. They had talented people, but he had I don't remember the exact stats, but he had a fantastic playoff run in 2019.
You got another shout out here for your dead weight report. Get those players off your roster. That
is my favorite article to write in season.
Dead weight. And that's one of the toughest things for people to do is to rationalize dropping somebody, especially if it's somebody you drafted kind of highly or in like the middle rounds where you're like, I drafted this player for a reason. Can I really drop them? Should I drop them? Like, in some cases, unfortunately, you should drop them. That's just how it works. And
it's hard.
Jen's
People have
does a great job.
The emotional attachment is tough. I mean, last year, the poster boy was Hollywood Brown. I got so much crap for writing that up, and then sure enough, people were like, God, I should have dropped him. people kept hanging on to him week after week, and he just never panned out last year.
So we got 2 picks left. And so let's talk roster construction real quick because this is important. We have 6 wide receivers. We have 5 running backs. I don't know if we need to take another running back here. I don't think we have to. We could go double wide receiver. Yeah. So I think with that in mind, we should take a wide receiver with this next pick. Okay. And so for me, the question is, which of these guys do you want it to be? And I'll pull up the actual wide receiver rankings so we can scroll down a little past where the queue stops here at Tyrell Williams. So below Tyrell, you're looking at this group of players. I know that DPJ ended up in your players to draft after pick 150 based upon his hype. I don't think we take him here in this round. Like if he's there next round, we could talk about it. Mm-hmm. Is there anybody who stands out to you?
I mean, I would say Brown, but we took Samuel, so we probably don't want to do that unless we do.
Or, I mean, maybe that's more reason to do it, right? You're talking about De'Ami Brown up at the Washington football team. Yeah. I mean, if Samuel's out, Brown is going to see more playing time. We're still stacking with Fitzpatrick. Like, kind of makes sense. I'd have a hard time taking him over someone like Sterling Shepard, who I think has a more defined role, or even the Lions receivers, Perriman or Tyrell Williams. But or maybe even the New England guys. Like, there's a lot of directions we can go here. 15 seconds.
Shepard's one of those guys that is not sexy, but I'm fine with it. You know, I feel like he's fine. Like, I'm fine if we take him. I have no problem with that at this point in the draft.
Okay. He is on the team. We have 1 pick left. So we'll see who makes it back to us. I don't know if we'll go wide receiver, running back. Let's just look at the other positions and kind of where they ended up towards these last rounds of the draft. Like, because if you did kind of really punt away one of the positions, like a quarterback in a Superflex league, like, are you taking Jacob Eason here? Not in best ball, right? Because he's going to lose his job when Wentz comes back. Yeah. You if anything, you play more for the upside.
You could take Heineke. I mean,
right.
You know, I mean, we have Fitzpatrick. We don't know. You know, we know Fitzpatrick's not going to play 17 games. I mean, let's be realistic. He's not going to play 17 games. But I don't know if he plays 6 games, if he plays 12 games. We're just not really sure how that's going to shake out.
Let's look at tight end next. I think in general the QBs here just like you just can't draft them. Not in best ball, but
Callaway. I forgot about him. Is he still there?
He
was the main guy in that article that I just wrote because
I didn't want to mention his name. I think he got drafted before we were even up there.
Well, because Kevin's talking about
I would have. Oh yeah, he got drafted before we took Shepard. So maybe that was the pick over Damian Williams.
Probably. But I forgot about him, but I mean he's potentially the wide receiver 1 there at this point.
Either way, we're highlighting your article, right? So
we are. Yeah. But yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, we say back to tight end.
Yeah. So I guess my question for you is: we've talked about Eakins, we've talked about Eric Ebron. Ebron's already gone, but are there any of these other kind of real stretches at tight end that you have mild interest in?
I kind of like Hollister. I hate to say that, but I kind of do. I feel like he might take over Dawson Knox. I don't know. Maybe not in this. Maybe in one of the regular 28 round or 22, whatever the full Monty FFPC. But just as a sleeper in general, I do like him.
Scott Barrett was talking up Donald Parham on last week's show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Mo Alley Cox would be someone I'd be more interested in if Wentz was healthy.
Right, and if Mo Alley Cox was healthy, because he's having trouble too. I kind of like Jacob Harris. I've been taking him a lot.
A little bit of buzz for Harris.
I've taken a little bit. I took him. I took him in Scott Fishbowl by accident. Like I handcuffed. I have Higbee and him in Scott Fishbowl by accident. Like I forgot, and then I took Harris. I was like, well, I guess I handcuffed the Rams tight ends without meaning to. But yeah, other than that, there's nobody there. I'm definitely out on Herndon. I would take Croft before I would take Herndon.
Kev shouting out Dan Arnold. I can't do it.
Yeah, I just can't. I can't do Arnold.
I can't do it.
But CJ Uzoma is someone that, I can't stand him, but he ends up, he has some good weeks. Like if you're going to take, CJ, it's best ball.
Yeah.
And then of course there's Jimmy Graham.
True. Touchdown machine, Jimmy Graham.
Yeah. I haven't taken I really haven't taken Jimmy Graham yet. And I am definitely not taking Tebow in any format.
Nah. The dude was playing baseball how many months ago? Like
people are taking him and they're hyping him, and I find it hilarious.
There are too many targets there in Jacksonville anyway.
Yeah,
especially if Etienne is going to be used as the type of receiver that they say he's going to be. Like it's not worth it.
I'm actually surprised he's still on the team at this point, even. But we'll see once they start making those cuts.
Yep, it'll be curious. All right, so a full round before we come up here. I don't know. Like, let's talk about the running backs. And again, if we step on some, if we get sniped on one of these guys who you shout out, like, I don't think it's the end of the world. But do any of these late round running backs who we haven't discussed kind of stand out to you? Because these are the types of decisions you are forced to make in every draft that goes this deep, right? Once you get into round 17, 18, 19, 20, you are throwing darts, and you have to find little windows into potential value.
I don't hate Malcolm Brown.
Sure. I mean, either one of these Miami backups could be good.
Yeah.
Like, are we really sold on Myles Gaskin?
One of them's going to get the work.
Yeah.
Or both. Who else is down there? I mean,
can I interest you in one of the Chargers backups? Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly. It sounds like, I think according to the initial depth chart, Jackson is listed ahead of Kelly still, which kind of makes sense based upon the usage last year.
Right.
So I think I'm buying that. Like, we see Kelly higher in ADP, but I think if you force me to take one of them, it's going to be Jackson. And I'm not excited to draft either. I'm just kind of saying,
right.
I
get it.
If I'm making the distinction, I think that's the one that I go with.
And I sat there and talked for 5 minutes about Eckler possibly getting hurt. So, I mean, I guess if I'm going to talk about that, I can see how that would happen, But, I don't know that we need another running back. I feel like we should go. What's our breakdown again?
Yeah, so we'll pull up this typical construction again. 3 quarterbacks, we got those. 2 to 3 tight ends. We're set there with the 2 we got. 5 to 7 running backs. I think we're right at 5 right now with Sermon, Murray, Williams, Cook, and Jones. And at wide receiver, we've already got 7, which kind of puts us on on the high end, or I guess right in the middle. If we're saying 6 to 8, like 7 is fine. We could stop right now and be good. With that said, we did draft Curtis Samuel, who is injured right now. Like, maybe that's reason to go get the 8th wide receiver. Maybe just the upside that a wide receiver has week to week over these running backs who are available. Maybe that's the reason we go wide receiver. So
I think we should do that.
So pulling it up again,
I kind of like getting the Brown there and kind of balancing out our Samuel and Fitzpatrick stack. Mm-hmm. Unless there's someone else there that you're dying to get.
Nobody I'm dying to get. I think Brown makes sense. It's a little bit heavier of a stack on Washington that I think I've done in a best ball to this stage, but that's okay. I'm interested in Pringle because it sounds like he's outplaying Demarcus Robinson in KC. And as much as people like McCole Hardman, we haven't seen him put it together through the first couple seasons of his career. And maybe he's just one of those wide receiver prospects who doesn't pan out. And it ends up being a more surprising player like Pringle, who is the wide receiver 2 there in that prolific offense. So you could talk me into that. I mentioned Tyrell Williams last round.
I know you like Sammy. I remember us having a Sammy conversation on a team map a couple years ago. I can't do Sammy, but then again, they're all
not in this
there,
offense.
So
yeah, he wasn't in a run first offense before. So
no, I know.
I like the stack idea with Brown, so we'll put him at the top of the queue. And
okay.
I'm trying to see if I want to talk myself into Van Jefferson. I don't.
Yeah. MVS is always someone that
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it comes down to Tyrell Williams, Byron Pringle, or De'Ami Brown. And Brown is a stack for us. Williams is probably like the safest bet to get targets, although he can never seem to stay healthy. And I think Pringle is like the non-stack upside play in my mind. That's kind of how I see these three. Do you want to just go with Brown, though?
Yeah, I do.
There we go. That's the team.
We go with the random football team stack that we did not set out to get when we started, but that's the fun of all of it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, this team is good. Like, I like the way this team turned out. We didn't pay up for quarterback, so we're risking a little bit there, but Lawrence could overperform. Like, all these guys could outperform where we drafted them, and that's what I like about the group.
Yeah. We definitely we didn't reach for anybody, that's for sure.
Right. Running back, we got 2 studs. We backed them up with a really intriguing player in Trey Sermon, and then just a couple upside plays in Latavius Murray, Damian Williams. And the thing I like about these two is that they both have that possibility of getting just game-to-game work anyway. Yeah. Like, they might have a role even if they're not the starter. Mm-hmm. And while that's not always going to be useful, they might have enough, like just 2 or 3 spike weeks where they happen to get a lot of catches. Maybe they score a long touchdown that it works out. I guess Murray's probably not scoring long touchdowns or catching a lot of passes, but maybe he has that game where he spikes 2 touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
From the goal line. Like, that's a possibility. Tight end, I love the Andrews-Jonnu Smith pairing. And then wide receiver, I think, is our weak point, but we have a strong anchor in Stephon Diggs and just kind of a volume approach after that.
Right. And we have the Washington stack. We have 2 secondary stacks, right? We have Jones and Lawrence, and then we have Darnold and Anderson. So, I mean, you know, stacks and stacks and stacks.
Got to do it. Yeah, I guess overall running back depth is probably the thing I'm concerned about the most with this team. But we're just taking the approach that Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones are going to carry us. And if they don't, we're hoping that maybe one of these other guys can pull a rabbit out of their hat. Let's look at the draft board again.
Okay.
The draft is now complete. Paris Campbell, Mr. Irrelevant. 18-12, like, I'm in. That's a nice pick. Like, this person in the one drafter got a lot of value on wide receivers.
Yeah, for
especially late with Mooney, Callaway, Campbell
for sure.
coming together, and Devonta Smith kind of buying the dip on him a little bit. He's starting to fall due to his injury. Darrell Williams kind of in a similar boat to Damian Williams. Like, I think Darrell Williams is probably going to have a role for Kansas City. Mm-hmm. That's a better offense than the Bears offense too. So, I mean, maybe what we should have done here is taken Callaway over Williams and then taken whichever one of the Williamses came back to us in the next
round. Possibly. But
are there any other picks when you look at the board that you would want back? You want to do over on? This is something I like to do at the end of the stream.
I mean, Samuel was not ideal. I mean, both of us were kind of flip-flopping with that, and we just kind of ended up happening.
So who do you take over him then? I guess we talked about Moore.
We talked about Moore, yeah. We were talking Hardman a little bit, but I mean, listen, I think either one. It's not like we completely lifted, and that Elijah Moore is going to completely outscore Samuel. I think we're fine there, and it's a stack, so I think we're totally
right. I do think you're right. I think it was probably a mistake, and I think this is one of those cases where we talked ourselves into a stack when we didn't need to. Is kind of the way I look at it in hindsight.
Right. Well, we were kind of just talking, and then we wasted time, and then he got out of picks. So that's
you and me talking. What?
And I like Jones after that. I think he's a good value. I like that we kind of got that.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I like the team. I think we we have a shot.
All right, now that we can see the full draft board, we talked about some of the teams we liked before the most. Are there any other ones that stand out to you as ones that you think have a good shot? And if you want to maybe shout out a team we haven't talked about, that would be cool. What do you think about this team in the 8th spot? Kamara Barkley to start is a really strong running back pairing. Jalen Hurts, we have our concerns about, but I mean, I think that's the right spot for him to go in this sort of super flex format. AJ Brown and Allen Robinson are obviously studs. The draft came together pretty well for this team. Structurally, I like it. It's just maybe some of the specific players don't really jive with me, but that doesn't mean that they won't work out, you know?
Right. Like I'm not, yeah. I mean, Hunt and Galladay and Chark, and Higbee, where they were taken, I don't know that I would have necessarily done that at cost right where they are, but and then Drake. Yeah, I don't know. I don't hate the team. I think there's good parts. I think like we were talking about earlier, I think Hooper's kind of a guy that people are super underestimating, but overall, I don't hate the team. I think he got some pieces at cost that I wouldn't have taken.
I think the Higbee pick was kind of a necessary evil because you look at round 9, this tier starts to go. The drafter doesn't have a tight end yet. If you don't take Higbee, you're looking at you're not getting Gesicki or Troutman coming back, and then your tight end one is Irv Smith, Jonnu Smith, Evan Engram. So I actually like that pick. I think Higbee. I don't have him too much farther behind Fant, Tonyan, Goddard, Thomas. I mean, I have Goddard and Thomas kind of a tier above, I guess, but. Higbee right after these two, given the way this draft played out, makes sense to me. But I agree, I'm definitely not a Galladay person, and Chark is just a little sketchy to me. But again, where Chark's going here in the 10th round, like that's fine. Like you're taking Cooks over him, Devonta Smith, Antonio Brown. Like there's definitely an argument that Chark is the better pick there. It's just not a pick I would have made.
Right.
Any other that was the team that stood out to me. Any other ones stand out to you?
I like Joe's pick. I like Joe's team in the 12 spot. He's got some good picks there.
Yeah. So Devontae, Dak, this running back trio for rounds 3 through 5 is quite strong, to be honest. Like Mixon falling all the way to the end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th is a little surprising to me. Like I kind of would tier both of these guys, Harris and Mixon, with Gibson and CEH, who both went much earlier in the 3rd round. Like those both feel like great values. Miles Sanders is not exciting, but he's fine there, especially as your RB3. We talked about how we like Deontay Johnson. Like the tight ends here, like I don't like. Apologies to Joe. Like Kmet, I think is fine at value. But I would if Kmet is your tight end 2, I would want a better tight end 1. So
who does he have? Who's that on the bottom?
At the bottom, there's Herndon, your boy.
I can't with him. I
mean, in the last round, sure. Like
totally. Yeah. For me, I'd be rolling with Ebron or Eakins or I don't know, someone else at that point. But that's just me.
The sneaky Carson Wentz, Michael Pittman, like super cheap stack.
Yeah. See, he should have gone with Mo Alley Cox there for that cheap stack.
Yeah, actually, I think I would like that better. Put Mo Alley Cox there and Herndon. I like that more. Now, I kind of mentioned if I don't mind Kmet as your tight end 2, if you have a better tight end 1 than Gesicki. And I know I might be in the minority and not liking Gesicki. I just think now there are too many targets there. Like Gesicki did a lot of his production when other receivers on the team were hurt last year.
Right. But you know what? They're all hurt again. So
there you go.
We'll
so
have
maybe
to see
it works.
What's happening because you've got Devontae Parker's hurt and Waddle's the only one that's not at the moment. So
yeah, and I guess
but it's still early.
I don't know where I would have made a different where I would have taken a tight end. Like, do you take Goddard or Logan Thomas over Wentz? Like maybe that's the answer.
Right. But it gets ugly. I mean, you've got So how do you feel about Watson? Like Watson in the 9th? Like I'm just not that person. I don't think
he plays a snap this year, so I'm not drafting him. He's off my board.
Me too.
But again, it's best ball. You're playing for upside.
Right.
This is
true. Yeah.
A QB4 situation. I mean, that's the real problem here is that you're kind of just using up a roster spot on him.
Right.
That could be going towards running back or wide receiver on this build or a better tight end. And so for me, that's the reason I don't like the pick more than anything else. It's just if you are going to go in on Watson, like go in on Watson, make him your QB3, like just turn this Derek Carr pick into something else. Like this could have been another wide receiver. Like this could have been Tyler Lockett to stack with Wilson and Metcalf. Like,
oh yeah,
make that the pick if you think Watson is going to be good for you. Like, this feels like more of a hedge and more of like a season-long managed league strategy to me. Again, not trying to crap on these other teams, but the way I see it is, if you're going to go in on Watson, go in on Watson. Let Carr go to somebody else. Use that pick on a different position. Let Watson be your QB3.
If you're going to go that route. But I haven't drafted him at all. Not once. I just don't think he's going to play.
Yeah, same. I mean, and that's the
I don't see how he plays. But then again, we've seen some crazier things with the NFL and what you know.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
They may trade him somewhere and then he gets to play and has no, I guess we'll have to see.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. I love the Superflex format. And as the viewers can see, I've been scrolling across the bottom, some promotion for the 2 QBs 2021 draft guide. This is a draft guide directed at Superflex and 2 quarterback formats. We have rankings, auction values. We're going to push out an update this week with updated rankings based upon, the reports that are coming out of camp. We have a bunch of great articles in there. There's a 12-team mock draft with a bunch of like really heavy hitters from around the industry, including TJ Hernandez from 4for4, Mike Clay from ESPN, a bunch of other, really sharp drafters. Scott Barrett, he was on the show last week. He did the mock draft for us. Just a bunch of great content. 10% of the revenue from the draft guide is going to go to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. We do a donation from the draft guide every year. We're excited to do that. It really is a labor of love from me and my partner, Sal Stefanelli, at SalPal2 on Twitter. Jen, Sal well. Sal's a great dude. And we're really excited for the 2 QBs draft guide to be back. It's been a few years since we did it. We were kind of itching to get one launched again. And use promo code Greg and you'll get 11% off in honor of Alex Smith. The baseline price is $11.11, also in honor of Alex Smith. So just all the 11s all the time. But yeah, that's my plug for the draft guide. Jen, you just dropped your 10 players to draft after pick 150. What else you got coming up at 4for4.com?
I get a little break, which is kind of fun. Well, to this weekend. Then I'll be doing preseason. I do preseason recaps. So basically anything that like happened in any game as far as, camp battles, injuries, whatever. So I do kind of preseason recaps on every Monday. And then on Tuesdays, I do ADP risers and fallers after preseason games. So that'll be every Monday and Tuesday until the season starts coming up here.
Dang. Yeah, you got your hands full.
Yep.
Viewers, you can follow Jen on Twitter at The Monday Mama. You can follow me at Greg Sauce. And, of course, follow 4for4 at 4for4 Football. Head over to the site. Sign up for a subscription. We have a bunch of different plans from just regular redraft leagues to DFS content to betting content. We even have golf and basketball at 4for4.com, which is mind-blowing. It's a lot of great stuff. There are a lot of different ways you can get value out of your subscription. So head on over to the site, get that subscription. You will receive a voucher to use at the FFPC worth up to $35. You can do one of these best ball drafts that we just did or something similar. Jen, before we go, got to talk kickers with you.
Yeah.
Who's rising up your kicker board? Who's falling down your kicker board? Give me the cliff notes.
I wish I could say I haven't really gone too deep yet in all of it, but there's a few changes that have happened. So we have Sam Ficken, right, was let go by the Jets. He's now in Tennessee, and so it's a battle between him and Tyler McCann. But I think Ficken is probably going to win that job. So, Tennessee is a team that's going to score some points. So he's kind of a kicker for people to keep their eyes on, that people probably no one's going to care about or draft. So other than that, everybody is pretty standard. There's been nothing too crazy. There's a couple battles that have yet to be figured out, I should say. But listen, a kicker in general, anyone who follows my work or knows, you want kickers on high scoring offenses. You want kickers that are going to be at home usually and that are favored by a lot. So that's really what you want to look for. You're not drafting. As much as we love Kaimi Fairbairn, don't draft him this year because they're not going to score any points.
Do you want to nitpick my rankings here? I just pulled them up on the stream.
Oh, let me see.
I got Butker number 1, Tucker number 2, Suckup number 3, Matt Gay number 4. Your boy Rodrigo is a little buried. I apologize for that.
No, that's fine. I listen, without Wentz, I would bury him too.
And actually, I need to drop him down after the Wentz news. This hasn't been updated.
I would drop him a little bit. I'd probably move Bass up a little bit, and I would probably – the thing is, Suckup actually is in some sort of a battle as well. I can't remember right now who it is that he's battling against, but he's actually – there's somebody there in Tampa that's been fighting with him for that role, which would really stink because I like Suckup. I would probably drop Tucker a little bit. I'd probably swap out like Bass and Tucker. That's just my personal, But other than that, the rest solid. Like Gay, Sanders. Lutz is out, by the way.
Yeah, I moved him way down to 21.
Yeah,
you can see he dropped a lot.
Yeah, he had core muscle surgery, so he's out for like 8 weeks or something.
The person they brought in is Brett Maher. I guess I should just like move him up and show that's the New Orleans situation to start the year. Again, if you're doing like a best ball where kickers are used at the FFPC, like you probably can't draft either of them because you don't want a half season from either of your kickers.
No.
But if you're in a managed league, like Maher is probably the guy. And actually, with that in mind, like Lutz should just be beyond 32 now that I think about it.
Yeah, he should be for a while.
This is on the Fantasy Pros platform where ultimately I'm trying to rank them as they will score points. Like this is more of like an exercise in projections, but I do like to rank it as if I would draft. And then, right before the lock on the Fantasy Pros accuracy contest, I'll readjust for like the projections aspect of it. So this is kind of like the order I would draft them in rather than the number of points I think they'll score. But,
I mean, I like Zerline and Carlson. They could be moved up a little bit somewhere, but either way, I think you're good for now. I mean, I have not done a thorough assessment. I mean, I did write a kicker article earlier this summer, just on the basics, of who people should be going after. But yeah, I think overall you're good.
Well, thanks for the feedback. I am like one of the most accurate historical rankers of kickers at Fantasy Pros, so I take a lot of pride in that. But it's always good to bounce some ideas off of the other kicker experts like yourself, Jen. So thank you for that. Thank you for joining me on the stream. Anything else you want to say before we sign off here?
No, man. Thanks everyone for hanging with us. That was fun.
Yeah, it's a really good time. We'll catch you next week. I mentioned on what's Sal's show? The 4-minute drill, which I did earlier this week with Sal, that Ben Cummins was going to be the guest next week on the stream. That is not the case. Ben had something come up, but we're going to get Zach Kruger from 4 for 4 and from RotoViz, big best ball head. So it'll be fun to pick his brain on this Superflex format. Really looking forward to that with him. So Tuesday night, 9 p.m. next week, we'll do it again with Zach. And then later this week on Thursday, you'll get another Best Ball Live with James Coe doing an underdog draft. So stay tuned to the 4 for 4 feed at 4 for 4 football, and you'll be apprised of all of these great shows we have coming up, mine and James's. So once again, thank you all for listening or watching or whatever it is you're doing. Like maybe you're looking at the screen. I don't know. Jen, thank you. And we'll catch y'all next time. Have a good night.
Sounds good.